Once again, I'm gonna be cooking something from my Unofficial Ghibli Cookbook, and what I'll be cooking is this. It's the ramen that Lisa makes for Sasuke and Ponyo in the movie Ponyo. I think this is like the default food that comes to my mind when I think about Ghibli foods. In the movie, Lisa actually makes instant ramen for the kids, obviously. She's a busy mom, she doesn't have time to make her own broths and everything. But in this recipe, I've actually made my own broths, because that's what the recipe calls for. And there's even a note down here that says that a homemade ramen is a really exciting and endless craft. And I agree with that. Ramen is like pizza. You can do anything with ramen. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're actually gonna make some, what are these called? Ajitsuke. I'm not gonna even try. Pickled eggs. I've actually made pickled eggs once in my life already, but I didn't really like them back then. I don't like strong flavors. I don't really care for soy sauce too much. So obvious first step is to just cook the eggs. I'm gonna poke a little hole at the bottom of these eggs, just because for me that has always prevented them from cracking. It's a really... I say that and the egg cracks completely on my hand. Let's just leave it be for now. Put the eggs in the bowl. And then we're gonna need some boiling water. Now, these eggs are gonna be boiling for 5 minutes and 55 seconds. And then immediately after they're done boiling, they need to be put into ice cold water. On other things, this recipe calls for chicken broth or chicken stock, but I am using a beef stock instead because, well, that's what I happen to have. This was just a homemade beef stock. Pretty much what I did was I had like leftover vegetables and stuff from cooking. Once I have enough of them, I just put them in a pot and I put some water in the pot and I just cook it. I normally just use this for my ramen. Other thing we need for this is a kombu and katsuobushi broth. Mine is made with like a seaweed and sesame mix and bonito flakes. And I also added in a little bit of This here is a mushroom salt. It adds a really earthy flavor. This smells really seaweedy, which is good because I like seaweed. But I hope that the mushroom flavor also comes through a little bit. There's a lot of different smells going around right now. And the other things that this calls for is just salt, sugar, cooking sake, and mirin. Now, with mirin and cooking sake, they're really traditional. They're really normal in Japanese recipes. But I'm Finnish, so I can't actually easily find those. And also, as I've grown older, I've kind of stopped with the idea of everything has to be perfect. And instead, it's kind of fun when you cook to substitute things for the things that you can find, you know, in your own country. So instead, I'm gonna be substituting those. So for cooking sake, the normal substitution would be something like white wine. Surprisingly enough, we don't have any white wine at home right now. So instead, I'm gonna be using a little bit of white wine vinegar. I'm diluting it in some water. That should give the same or similar flavors to what sake does. And with the mirin, I know that mirin is mainly used to kind of sweeten things, sweeten broths. Like sake is used to give a depth to a flavor, mirin is used to kind of sweeten the flavor. And so instead of mirin, I'm gonna be using some homemade apple juice from the apples at our backyard. This is a pretty sweet juice, so it should work pretty well. But it's time to take out our eggs and put them in some cold water. Place the eggs in a bowl and cover them with soy sauce and let them sit and rest for the rest of the preparation. I think normally if you were making pickled eggs, you'd be making them like a day ahead. Or like, you know, you'd have them ready. Today, I'm just kind of going with what the recipe says. I do kind of wonder if this is gonna be better not letting them sit for that long since, you know, like I said, I don't really like soy sauce that much. How do these bottles work? Don't tell me I can't make the pickled eggs because I can't open a soy sauce bottle. Good. We have a bigger bottle of soy sauce. Okay, I have my eggs. First things first, they need to get cracked. Okay, this egg is not perfect because it's kind of broken in half. It's perfect. Look at that. It has some eggshells on it, but look at that. And this is how I've seen some people do this when they're not leaving it for a day. They wrap it in some paper, they put it in the bowl, and then they completely engulf that paper in some soy sauce. And now that egg should be able to like absorb the soy sauce through the sheet, so that it's also, you know, getting it from all sides equally. And I don't need to waste as much soy sauce, so perfect. Now I can let my eggs rest over here. That is the egg place. Now move on to the shiotare. Pour all the ingredients into a saucepan and heat over medium heat. I'm just gonna take my beef broth, at least half of this, a little bit more than half of this. I need some fine salt. Recipe calls for 5 teaspoons, I believe. 5 tablespoons. Oh, okay. I'll be putting in 1 teaspoon. I don't think I need more than that. And then I also need 2.5 tablespoons of caster sugar, except I'm not gonna need 2.5 of it. I'm only gonna need a little more than a half. Other things I'm gonna need is the cooking sake and mirin. So cooking sake is gonna be substituted with white wine vinegar, about 100 milliliters, so about 25 milliliters. So I'm gonna say just a little bit of this, and then I'm gonna add some water with it. Maybe I'll add a little bit of soy sauce to this as well, just because it's also adding a little depth to it. White wine vinegar, water, and soy sauce. Hopefully it'll give me the light flavors. The other thing I'm gonna need is the mirin, which I'm gonna be substituting with apple juice. I think about this much is a good amount. A little bit of water and a teeny tiny bit of sugar. Apple juice, water, and sugar mixture. This should give the sweetness. Now we're bringing it to a boil. It smells really good. It smells interesting. It doesn't smell as much of like the broth as the broth does. Like it still has a really meaty smell to it, but I can definitely smell the sweetness. Gentle boil and then cover and set aside over low heat. That's already a harsh boil. Stop doing that. Then in a separate saucepan, we're gonna make the chintan broth. Rest of my beef broth right there, and then my kabu and kachuboshi broth. Now this just needs to be brought to a boil and then set aside to be on low heat for some while. And for the toppings, we do have toppings for this as well, other than the egg. We have some green onion. I don't actually remember what this is called. And obviously we have I get to eat ham. I get to eat ham. But yeah, what we need to do is we need to cut those spring onions in smaller pieces. I have my spring onions ready. Then I just need to get my egg. Oh, it looks funny. It looks very interesting. It's like a very weird egg. Now it is time to put my noodles to cook. So I just need to open this up and put it in the bowl. Then we're gonna need chitan broth, which is this one. Obviously, since I measured everything out to be, fit for one person, I just poured everything in. Now we just cover it up and wait a few minutes.
It takes 3 minutes.
Okay, time to uncover. Okay, so I added on top my ham, my egg, spring onions, as well as a little bit of sesame oil, roasted sesame oil.
It's ham! Careful, it's hot!
Ooh, broth is really interesting. I can't even explain how this tastes, actually. It's really delicious. It has a really, fresh flavor. I can taste the seaweed very well. It's also a little bit sweet, but not overpoweringly sweet. It's like a salty kind of sweet. The egg's really tasty too. I really like this. This is so good.
This was actually filmed quite a while ago, but looking back on it, I'm still really happy with how this ramen turned out. Honestly, experimenting like this is one of my favorite parts of making ramen or just cooking in general. And I did end up eating all of it, even the leftovers, since I got pretty hungry while I was filming. So I think that should say something about how good this actually was. And before I wrap things up, I just want to say a huge thank you to Instant Decay for supporting me on Ko-Fi and always being so kind and supportive in the comments as well. It really means a lot to me and keeps me wanting to make more videos. But until next time, I hope you'll have a wonderful day.